Oh, hello there. I'm Bilchan.
I'm Nimakong.
I'm Van Chan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. Chapter 12, Section 1 of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
S.
Ah.
The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Arthur Conan Doyle. Chapter 12, Section 1. To the man who loves art for its own sake, remarked Sherlock Holmes. Tossing aside the advertisement sheet of the Daily Telegraph. To be derived. It is pleasant to me to observe. Watson. Cases which you have been good to draw up. And then, I am bound to say, occasionally to embellish, in themselves. And yet, said I, smiling, you have heard. Perhaps he observed, remarked with some coldness, be a strong factor in my friend's singular character. It is not selfishness or conceit, said he. And sowing, as was his wont, my thoughts rather than my words, if I claim full justice for my art, it is because it is an impersonal thing, a thing beyond myself. Crime is common. Logic is rare. Therefore it is upon the logic rather than upon the crime that you should dwell. It was a cold morning of the early spring. Room at Baker Street. A thick fog rolled down between the lines of dun-coloured houses, and the opposing windows like dark, shapeless spurs through the heavy yellow wreaths. Metal, for the table had not been cleared yet. Sherlock Holmes had been silent all the morning, dipping continuously into the advertisement columns of a succession of papers until at last, having apparently given up his search, he had emerged in no very sweet temper to lecture me upon my literary shortcomings. At the same time, he remarked after a pause, "Well, you can hardly be open to a charge of sensationalism, and a fair proportion do not treat of crime, in its legal sense, at all. The small matter which I endeavour to help the King of Bohemia, the singular experience of Miss Mary Sutherland, the problem connected with the man with the twisted lip, and the incident of the noble bachelor, were all matters which are outside the pale of the law. But in avoiding the sensational, they may have been so, I answered. Bijou, my dear fellow, what do the public, the great unobservant public, then care about the fine shades of analysis and deduction? But, indeed, if you are trivial, I cannot blame you, for the days of the great cases are past. Vance, or at least criminal man, has lost all enterprise and originality. As to my own little practice, advice to young ladies from boarding schools, I think that I have to teach them at last. However, this note I had this morning marks my 0 point. I fancy. Read it. He tossed a crumpled letter across to me. It was dated from Montague Place upon the preceding evening, and ran thus: Dear Mr., accept a situation which has been offered to me as governess. I shall call it at 10:30 tomorrow if I do not inconvenience you. Yours faithfully. Do you know the young lady? I asked. Yes. It may turn out to be of more interest than you think. You remember that the affair of the Blue Carbuncle, which appeared to be a mere whim at first, developed into a serious investigation. It may be so in this case. Well, let us hope so. But our doubts will very soon be solved. For here, unless I am much mistaken. As he spoke, the door opened and a young lady entered the room. She was plainly but neatly dressed, with a bright, quick face, freckled like a plover's egg, making the world. You will excuse my troubling you, I am sure, said she, as my companion rose to greet her. But I have had a very strange experience. Ask advice. Pray take a seat. Miss Hunter. New client. He looked over in his searching fashion, and then composed himself, his lids drooping and his fingertips together, to listen to her story. I have been a governess for 5 years, said she, in the family of Colonel Spence Munro. But 2 months ago the Colonel received an appointment at Halifax, in Nova Scotia, and took his children over to America with him, so that I found myself without a situation. I advertise, and I insert advertisements, but without success. At last the little money which I had saved began to run short, and I was at my wit's end as to what I should do. There is a well-known agency for governesses in the West End called Westways. Anything had turned up which might suit me. Westway was the name of the founder of the business, but it is really managed by Miss Stoper. She sits in her own little office, and the ladies who are seeking employment wait in an anteroom, and are then shown in one by one, when she consults her ledgers and sees whether she has anything which would suit them. Well, when I called last week I was shown into the little office as usual, but I found that Miss Stoper was not alone. Pair of glasses on his nose, looking very earnestly at the ladies who entered. To Miss Stoper. That will do, said he. To be continued.